Hello, everyone. I'm pretty excited to be here with you all in the PMI Common Ground Symposium 2020 and share my experiences of new realities in project management. Project management holistically encompasses almost all doctrines of management, emphasizing more on soft skills. This actually empowers a project manager dealing with diversities, complexities while managing a simple to any complex project. But then sailing through the entire project life cycle in all project, to my experiences, is very, very rare. I'm sure many of us also will agree to this. In my experiences of project management, I came across many crossroads where planned activities, planned mitigation, structured methodologies, resolutionary approach really did not work. I had to really deal with many complexities going out of the box or even the planned activities to some extent. These I call, crossroads. The crossroads in project management generally provide, many new insights while running through or cruising through the new realities that we come across in real life. Well, today I thought of telling you a story of my revelation while encountering a crossroad and exposure to new realities, sharing my experiences of managing a project for a bank. I was hired to implement the core banking system for the bank. Well, I took over the project from previous project manager when project was at planning phase. The previous project manager had been struggling to cope up with the project schedule that was approved by project steering committee and to some extent endorsed by the board of directors. So I was hired, you know, I did all the due diligence to ensure that I complete a proper handover and takeover from the project manager. Well, the project was a very high priority project in alignment to the bank's strategic business objectives and a solution provider of the core banking system for which the project was undertaken that was a very globally renowned company. Everything had been going well, and the thrilling part or the friction came up during the execution phase. While we had been conducting end user training, I came to realize that nearly 40% of the end users do not even know how to use a computer or a laptop and did not have basic orientation training on using a computer. Well, you might be wondering, how did I realize this so precisely? Well, I used to sit behind the classroom in training sessions to observe the effectiveness of training when the trainers or the specialists from service provider side and from our in-house trainer, they used to train the end users, and if need be, I used to take appropriate measures so that improvements can be brought in the training to ensure the effectiveness of disseminating the knowledge. During those sessions, I observed that some of the attendees were seriously struggling to follow through the instructions of the trainers. Well, I'm sure all of us will agree to the fact that training for end user training, especially for a core banking system, or for that matter, any system that we implement as part of our project, is pretty much, oriented on hands-on training. So attendees of the training needed to listen the trainers carefully and worked on their specific desktops for hands-on training. I observed that trainer was saying to refresh the idle browser by pressing F5, but then some users were failing to find the function key F5. Even some were pressing later F in the keyboard, followed by number 5 in their keyboard. Well, adding to my surprise, I found that some were even hovering their mouse in the air instead of putting in the putting on their desk and scroll through the screen and complaining that their mouse is not working. Well, like many of you hearing me now, I was also completely taken away by sheer surprise observing the situation. To be more specific, about 2,000 users were incapable to undergo the training on CBS because of the situation that I just told you. They were not even ready to use the computer, let aside giving them the training on core banking system. Unfortunately or fortunately, these users, the, the number that I mentioned, about 2,000, they were the key stakeholder of the project, and they were the core users of core banking system, and they had been working in different branches all over the country. The project was a very high priority project, and the board of directors had a mandate of completing the project within a specific timeline. And we were almost in the middle of the journey of project life cycle. So, what would you do in a situation like that when you do have a pressing deadline given by the board of directors of the bank? I was actually at a loss at that time, although I'm sure we all understand that problem that I just narrated was very simple, easily identified, and apparently the level of complexity of mitigating the problem or the issue that I mentioned was like bare minimum. But the magnitude of the impact of this issue on the project was extremely high. And the problem turned into a showstopper to deliver the project, triggering red alerts in almost all project constraints. So, what went wrong? What did I miss as a project manager? Let us quickly look at various aspects of project management standard. If we look at broadly, typically managing a project include but not limited to, this is as per the a guide to the project management body of knowledge, that is in brief PMBOK. You can see in the screen, identifying project requirements. Well, this is more inclined to business requirements, resource requirements, budget requirements, and so on. Secondly, addressing various needs, concerns, and expectations of stakeholders, again, pretty much related to stakeholder analysis. Thirdly, establishing and maintaining active communication with the stakeholders, part of stakeholder management. Managing resources, again, part of the project, managing the project resources as a part of resource management plan. And finally, balancing competing project constraints that include, of course, not limited to scope, schedule, cost, quality, resource, and risk. Well, let's look at a bit deeper in various areas of project management to check back what has actually gone wrong from the story that I narrated to you. Is it something related to the failure of feasibility study prior to onboarding the project? Well, maybe, maybe not, because this mostly emphasizes on project environment, business case, benefit realization. So, how about failing to stakeholder analysis? But then, in a typical project management standard, we all know this analysis is based focusing more on stakeholders' level of influence and the impacts on the project and project outcomes that may include their interest, their rights, ownership, knowledge, and all this. How about gap in the enterprise environmental factors? I think we all understand, based on the classical project management standard, enterprise environmental factors mostly emphasize more on political, cultural, hierarchical, and maturity level of the organizations where we manage the project. Um, as I had been searching standard of project management or the body of project management knowledge, the PMBOK, I found something referred as end user adoption as a criteria of project success factors. But that is more inclined to project delivery acceptance. So, how about training? Training, it's there almost in all knowledge area, all process group, but mostly referred to project resources as a part of resource management plan, and sometimes to give the expert knowledge for decision making process. Let's look at the project documents, which is like numerous time came up in the PMBOK or the project management body of knowledge. But then again, this refers to different number of documents in while we manage the projects, starting with your project charter, issue log, risk register, stakeholder register, activity attributes, lessons learned, and many other. But I didn't find any document where it refers to the experience and competency level of end user in the project documents. So, with the quickest sanity check that we did now, I do not see any specific area where this new reality that I came across and narrated to you now, I actually didn't find. So, where to find the relevance of this crossroad in project management standard? I was actually looking through after the project as a part of organizational enterprise learning and process assets to add on. So I would like to really end my story mentioning the actions that we undertook as a part of mitigation and challenge before I share the insights that I learned encountering this crossroad. We actually onboarded a sub project which was out of the planning of the original project, that is the project of implementing core banking system. We employed an outsourced company to train these 2,000 resources on basic computing skills. Once the training and assessment on these orientation trainings were completed, we ultimately organized end user trainings on core banking system for these users. Well, this sub project, onboarding this sub project and managing the training for this inexperienced end users, this entire thing delayed the project delivery for about 3 months or so. However, we recovered some of the delays applying the combination of schedule compression techniques, namely fast tracking, but then it's linked with the high risk, we all know, and crashing, which is again linked with the cost. So these were the triggering area that triggered the red alert on the project constant that I mentioned before. I'm sure for many of us who are listening now, wondering the situation I described in my story, it may even sound unrealistic to many of us, especially at this time of fourth industrial revolution, when we are talking about digital transformation, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, blockchain, and many other innovative and emerging technologies. But the story I described is based on the facts that I experienced in real life project management, where I came across that truly exposed me to new realities. Now, just to make it, to give it a real sense, the project that I managed for the bank was a fourth generation bank, started their banking operation in early 80s, and most of the people were habituated doing banking business through leisure banking. But then their upgradation of their knowledge base on technology did not take place. That actually caused a problem when I was implementing core banking process system for the bank uh, as a project manager. So to summarize my story and the shared experiences, let us look at the crossroad once again and the new realities and insights from the story that I learned and also would like to share with you. Here is the crossroad that I described. So, in the execution phase, when this crossroad came up, we had the option either to continue the project progress without addressing the imminent challenges at hand with remedial measures to follow later on or gradually, or address the challenge immediately, balancing the impacts on project constraints that were created due to the issue that we identified in the middle of the project life cycle. Well, we took the second approach due to the material fact that those 40% end users were core stakeholders and needed to materialize expected and planned benefits from the project implementation as part of bank's strategic objectives. So what did I learn? What were the insights from the new realities that I really learned through encountering this crossroad? There could be many, but respecting to allotted time for me, I'll share a few of them. As you can see in the screen, A formal feasibility study should be carried out, documenting every aspect of all direct and indirect stakeholders, including but not limited to knowledge base of end users, their capacity and competency level, enterprise environmental factors that may include the maturity, experience, and competency level of employees of the organization where project is delivered. Well, the trade-off is my favorite word. I'm sure for all of us, especially when we manage a very complex project, this trade-off is a key strategy to balancing the project constraints and project outcomes, especially in risk management in the projects. We do trade-off as a part of mitigation strategy. And finally, as a project manager in a new organization, we all must know the organizational dynamics and diversities covering every area, special focus on beneficiaries of project outcomes. Well, I think I'll stop here and join you all in the question and answer session. I would like to thank you all once again for being so patient, sharing my experiences of Crossroad, new realities, and new insights. Thank you, everyone.